Jim, I want to ask you some questions and I demand answers. I want to ask you some questions about a few things happening in wrestling surrounding you.
Okay.
I apologize if any of these are sensitive.
Who's surrounding
issues.
me? I don't see a soul.
Well, that neighbor with the driveway, I think he's trying to surround you.
Well, he is building it close to my property line. All right, go ahead.
Jim, if you remember, as we were closing up the experience this week, we got some breaking news that many people were sending us on Twitter and via email as the show was transpiring that Dave Meltzer had been tweeting about you, and we discussed that on the show.
Oh, and this also apparently is why I trended again, against my knowledge or without my consent.
Yeah, as we said before, there appears to be some hitch where if anyone says anything positive about you, it becomes something where he has to not just disagree, but completely shut it down. And the one
which then his procedure to shut it down then creates more debate and talk and back and forth, and that's how I trend when I'm minding my own business.
You were outside playing in the dirt, and all this was happening in the dirt on Twitter.
I wasn't playing in the dirt, I was playing in the trees.
Well, you were playing in the trees. This is the one that several people have been sending to us over the last couple of days. I mean, they're still sending it to us as of today. Someone tweeted in response to Dave, I don't have the initial tweet that triggered it, someone named Victor Todorov. You would almost think that had to be a Russian bot, but...
I was about to say, wait a minute. I've heard of these Russian bots, but I didn't know they gave them names.
Well, here was...
I thought is he the tag team partner of Vladimir Gotcharoksov?
Well, here's here's the tweet. Jim is wrong about some aspects of today's wrestling, but he's right about a lot of other things, in my opinion. If he, and for example, Tony Khan, could combine their best thoughts, AEW would benefit greatly. I think that's kind of a fair assessment there. Nothing that's over the top.
The only questionable aspect would be whether or not that I would have a nervous breakdown being in the room with Tony Khan, but that's as a statement, not inflammatory and fairly reasonable and well thought out.
Right. I think even your detractors would say if you could just take the very best of Jim Cornette, those great creative ideas, and combine them with the very best of Tony Khan, whatever you want to say negative about him.
Yeah, and if you could find Tony's very best and combine those, it would be great.
Well, Dave responded to that tweet, again, suggesting that maybe you and Tony Khan, if you sat together, good ideas may come out of it. Actually, he's the single last person to listen to. He doesn't know the audience, nor the modern product. Maybe you could say that about John Muse, but Cornette is the last guy who could help Tony.
Wait, what? John Muse is a longtime wrestling fan from Michigan. And as I recall, John was a major tape collector, was he not?
I believe so.
Back in the days when we had to watch our wrestling on videotape. I'm not aware that John has ever worked in the wrestling industry professionally, behind the camera or on camera or any of that nature. And is John still alive? I haven't heard his name in 20 years. How did John Muse come up out of nowhere?
Well, I believe he came up out of nowhere because Mike Tenay probably bowed out of the offering of who should be the consultant that he recommended instead of Cornette this week. No, I think, didn't John Muse actually consult with Bischoff when Bischoff was going to buy and relaunch WCW? John Muse was going to, am I thinking of the right guy? I think it was John Muse. He was going to come in there and help run the cruiserweights and everything else.
Oh, yeah, help run the cruiserweight. Okay, I'm not knocking John. I haven't seen John or talked to John in 20 years, as I said, but I don't know where this came from.
But the idea
he was, but that didn't happen, did it?
But you're the single last guy. The single last guy that Tony Khan should listen to.
Nobody worse. Nobody has any stupider ideas. I don't know what to say to Uncle Dave, because at this point I'm speechless. For once, somebody has rendered me speechless. Does he wake up in the middle of the night screaming, "Don't listen to him"? He is, what do the kids say, triggered? Every time somebody, if Cornette and so-and-so could get along, no, it'd be horrible. well, if Cornette could, no, that would be terrible. And
it's so over the top when you really think about it. It's every time.
I have seen people fucking, ran down a member of somebody's family in the street with a car, and they apologized and got, back together. I don't know what his fucking deal is. Just because, again, have we ever said anything bad about Dave as a person until he started all this? We defended him. Have we ever maligned him or slandered him? Or do we even come up just at random and say, that Dave Meltzer, we haven't heard from him in a while, but boy, he's still a prick? No, but it's incessant. Just because I don't like Twinkle Toes and the fucking Hardley Boys. That's the only disagreement, bone of contention, breaking point that we have ever had with old Uncle Dave is that we don't fucking like the silly play wrestlers. And now it has made him go out of his mind. And again, I've seen people not care that much about family members, beloved pets, cherished personal possessions. What the fuck has Olivier and those two little smarmy pricks from Cucamonga done to or for Dave Meltzer to engender this kind of loyalty and dying on that hill every single time? Whether it's me or anybody else on Twitter that just says, you know what, we don't like these fucking guys because they act like goofs. Fuck, oh my God. You can't say that. How can you say that? They sold out Yokohama or whatever. What do you think, Brian?
You think if someone said, like, hey, AEW should hire Vince Russo, it'd be like, no, that's not the person. He's the second to worst person. Cornette's the worst.
Well, that's what it would be. Because I'm the worst. So he can't be the worst because I'm the worst. So yes, Uncle Dave thinks it would be better to hire Vince Russo for AEW instead of me.
Well, here's the other thing. If you are so out of touch with the modern product, how come the things that you critique the least, the things that you enjoy the most, the things that you champion the most, the Punk segments, the MJF segments, those are the highest rated segments they have. Those are the feuds and guys who have drawn the pay-per-views.
It's a complete accident, complete coincidence, Brian. Nothing more than that. And it's just a complete coincidence that all these things I say show up on their television program, either in something that the talent utters or some sign that the fans bring or some change that is made in the program. It's just all coincidence.
Do you think, I want to carefully craft this question, I should say. Do you think Dave knows how much stuff is being influenced by you and he's lashing out about that? Or do you think he's oblivious to what's really happening? And again, I'm not going to say too much.
That's a good question because you can't really tell because he speaks like a person that's oblivious to things most of the time. But I think it actually, at this point, it's bothering him that 3 years ago, I was one of the only people saying these things. Now, 3 years later, there's a lot of people saying these things because they just know it took them a while longer to notice. But that may be what it is. Maybe that's what it is. He was so sure that, oh my God, this is going to revolutionize everything. And for the kind of people who like that kind of thing, that's the kind of thing those people like. They have done tremendous business with the same fans they had 3 years ago. The same numbers on television, the same numbers in the building. They're very good. But it's the same people because it's the same people. Because that's the amount of people in this country that were going to like modern wrestling. And occasionally you get some peaks from real stars and main event angles that click like an MJF and a Punk or whatever the fuck. But more people have noticed, well, yeah, the fucking guy with his hands in his pockets was a one-note joke that never went anywhere, and now he went somewhere. Because they couldn't fucking keep doing that forever. Now they got a guy that puts curses on people. And they won't flesh that out, and that won't be funny in a year and a half. Or the fucking little dwarf that was with, his tag team champions until he figured out, well, I'm sure they probably got a bunch of complaints from people who had to work with the dwarf. It wasn't like people weren't going to figure this out. They started out with indie-rific guys that had never done this, had no experience, and couldn't do it. But they started picking up talent, and they got some momentum off those people to at least where now, usually on average, half the television program is great, and then the other half falls in a fucking hole. But that's better than where they started, where there was no part of the show that was great. But back to Dave, that's the problem, is he can't accept that everybody didn't suddenly see all this greatness that he saw somewhere in these 7-star matches with this fucking idiot Harpo and the rest of his masturbatory
theater
minion crew.
Masturbatory theater.
Masturbatory theater, yeah. The Cutlets and the Knock-It-Offs and all of the fucking idiots they've... Dave now is, I guess he's pissed. No, you can't see the same things he saw because he was wrong.
Let me ask you this. If John Muse decides that he's busy, Dave previously recommended Mike Tenay, now it's John Muse. Who do you think is next? Do you think it'll be Klon or Zombie Harry White?
Ooh, that's interesting. Well, Mike Tenay actually would have been a large improvement, but he wants to fucking be involved with the wrestling business about like I want to go up on the next space shuttle. I think Dave needs to keep his suggestions on booking to himself because I don't think that's his strong point. Either booking or suggesting other people to book.
Well, Jim on the
And how old would John Muse be these days?
I don't know.
He'd have to be as old as me.
In that range, I would think, of course.
So you think some 60-year-old guy from Michigan wants to come down and fuck around with these dipshits? I bet John Muse won't speak to Dave Meltzer anymore for suggesting that.